ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
It was a big surprise. We had just put our kids down to bed.
San Diegans are already feeling the heat, and to make matters worse, many across the county lost their power tonight. But the SDG&E rolling outages, they have ended for the night, lasting less than 2 hours. Good evening. I'm Steve Atkinson. State authorities ordered the 1-hour blackouts because of high electric use during this heat wave. Roughly 58,000 people around the county, they were left in the dark tonight with little warning. We have team coverage tonight of the impacts the hot weather is playing in these outages. Our ABC 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo shows us we haven't seen rolling blackouts like this in nearly a decade.
These outages are ordered by state authorities and haven't happened in 9 years. In Poway, grocery stores went dark. Shoppers brought to the front of the store to pay and then let out. 6-year-old Travis able to make it out in time with birthday balloons for his mom.
The light shut down.
In Rancho Bernardo, this video showing traffic lights out and seconds later the power comes back on. The rolling blackouts ordered by the California Independent System Operator, the agency that oversees the statewide electric grid, rotating 1-hour outages all over the county. High fire threat areas are exempt.
They woke up crying and the power all went out and we were like, what's going on?
Stephen Heffman and his family in UTC say they got a call from SDG&E and roughly 10 minutes later their power was out.
So I went outside and sure enough, all my neighbors, the lights on the corner are out, all the street lights are out.
The Heffman's power came back in less than 15 minutes. The flex alert ended at 10 Friday evening. A representative for SDG&E says it's important to be mindful of our energy use during an alert to avoid stressing the grid. Laura Acevedo, ABC 10 News.
And SDG&E is warning that the weekend could potentially bring more rolling blackouts if the state decides to do so because of this heat wave. It's not over yet. So our team coverage continues with our meteorologist, Angelica Campos, who is tracking this record-breaking heat. Angelica.
Hi, Stephen. It's not the first heat wave, so it's pretty strange how they're handling this one. The biggest difference weather-wise, it is definitely more humid, and that is making it feel even more uncomfortable. So imagine losing your power in places like Poway, where it's 79 degrees right now. A few hours ago, it was still in the 80s with no AC. That is really difficult. 78 degrees in Alpine, 85 degrees tonight in El Cajon, and still around 78 in Escondido. Early this afternoon, we made it to 87 in San Diego, and we broke records in Oceanside, Carlsbad, Alpine, Poway, and also in Borrego. Other cities not included in this graphic. We also broke records in Palomar Mountain and in Campo, with temperatures making it to around 106 degrees. We are expecting temperatures to drop only a couple of degrees. It won't make a difference. It's still going to be hot and humid. I'll have much more coming up in our 7-day forecast.
Angelica, thank you. We'll see you then. We have a full list of the areas impacted by the rolling outages, as well as the cool zones and weather conditions in your neighborhood. It's all on our website, 10news.com. Police in Azusa, they have identified a suspect in connection to the start of the ranch fire. They say the man was living in an encampment near where that fire started. Police are calling the man dangerous, and they are asking the public to use caution if they've seen him. Meanwhile, people are also returning to their neighborhoods as the ranch fire is now burning away from homes and evacuations have been lifted. That fire has burned about 2,500 acres, but no buildings. Containment on the fire is just 3%. Now to our north as well, crews are worried that the weather will hamper their efforts to get a handle on the lake fire. It's now burned more than 17,000 acres in the Angeles National Forest and is just 12% contained. Some homes have burned and thousands more are threatened tonight. Right now, crews believe they won't have it contained at least until September the 2nd. Back here at home, the only thing standing in the way of San Diego getting off of California's COVID-19 watch list is approval from the state. The county qualified to come off that list today because our numbers have stayed below the state's requirement for a third consecutive day. And here are the latest numbers from the county. They are now reporting 406 new cases in San Diego County. That brings the total to just over 34,000. We also have 7 new deaths. That brings that total to 622. The county says it's also tracking 2 new community outbreaks, one at a restaurant bar and one in a food processing center. Our ABC 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala explains if we keep this up for 14 more days, schools K through 12 can reopen, but some parents aren't ready for their students to return.
It's really hard. It's like a teeter-totter of, emotions. And
will students return to school in person this year or not? For parents like Marie Javago, the back and forth has become a bit overwhelming. She has 2 kids in high school and she's a teacher for the Chula Vista Elementary School District.
I don't think the teachers are being notified, by the district on exactly what to do. We're just waiting for the word, to come back.
Friday, San Diego County officials announced we have officially been qualified to be taken off of the state's monitoring list after meeting the requirements for 3 days in a row. But it's not official just yet. The state still needs to review the county's COVID-19 data before taking us off that list. Once we are off, we would have to continue meeting the requirements for 14 days straight for schools K through 12 to be able to reopen for in-person learning, something many parents have been anxiously waiting to hear. But not everyone is ready.
14 days is not enough. It's like we are, guinea pigs.
And what about businesses that are still desperate to reopen? That's still unclear. So Mayor Kevin Faulconer sent this letter to Governor Gavin Newsom asking for clarification and guidelines, saying that no process currently exists for reopening places like gyms, houses of worship, personal care services, barbershops, and salons, just to name a few. He went on to write, "We ask that the state provide clear and consistent guidance so that businesses and employees can better plan for their future as they struggle to survive." For now, it's another what if, as parents eagerly wait to see what happens next.
All the questions need to be answered before we even open.
Mimi Alcala, ABC 10 News.
Now, as the state reviews the data, the county will enter a critical phase tomorrow that will determine if schools could possibly reopen. But several things need to fall into place first, and a lot of parents are wondering what happens if we go back on the watch list. Our ABC 10 News anchor Derek Stahl explains what's next.
A new countdown timer begins. The county needs to post 14 straight days of good infection numbers. Under a best case scenario, schools would be allowed to reopen as early as August 29th, although that is a Saturday. To return to in-person instruction, San Diego County needs a perfect score on 6 metrics set by the state every day for 2 weeks. The troublesome metric has been case rate, which is basically case totals adjusted by population size. The county's case rate went abnormal July 3rd with a rate above 100, and it stayed that way until this week. Supervisor Nathan Fletcher thinks we can keep it below 100 with the right precautions.
So we can't have the mindset that once we're off the state monitoring list, well, everything's fine, and then we just go back to normal, because then we'll simply have it spike back up and we'll be in this seesaw situation.
Okay, so let's say that seesaw happens and we post a few days of good numbers and then one of the 6 triggers goes off. Our countdown timer would start over at 14 days and we'd have to post 14 consecutive days below all the trigger thresholds. At the moment, getting 14 straight days of good data will only allow schools to reopen and will not impact other businesses. But Supervisor Fletcher is hopeful the state will adjust its stance.
We may not have bars back open, like that's a very high-risk entity that facilitates spread. But I think we can get most sections of our economy up and running.
Thank you guys for keeping your distance.
Once schools reopen, the state wants teachers and staff tested on a rotating basis. Those test results could prompt an individual school to shut down if more than 5% of employees and students test positive. Once San Diego County gets through that 14-day window, we could always get put back on the state's watch list if we post 3 consecutive bad days of data. However, the state says once schools reopen, returning to the watch list will not force all schools to shut back down. That decision would be made on a school-by-school basis based on the testing of teachers and staff. Derek Stahl, ABC 10 News.
And we will also send out an alert the moment the state does confirm we are off the watch list. If you want to stay on top of that breaking news, just download the free 10 News mobile app. It's in your app store. 56 elementary schools in the county have already applied for a waiver that would allow for in-person learning, regardless of our status on the state's watch list. The waiver is only open to schools serving K through 6th grade students. Now, to get approved, the county will review each applicant's proposed safety plan. Once that is complete, the application will then be sent to the state. Country Montessori School in Poway took advantage of that waiver right away.
The application came available last Friday night and we applied Monday. If our waiver comes through next week, we're prepared to open on site on August 24th.
And the county said it was still reviewing all those applications and has not yet sent any to the state for approval. Despite those waivers, more than 90% of the state's students will start the new school year online. Today, Governor Gavin Newsom revealed new guidelines to help students gain access to proper technology for distance learning. The new rules call for school districts to have access to devices and Wi-Fi connectivity for all students. The state superintendent said it is critical that students have the tools they need to succeed.
These circumstances are not ideal that students are returning to school in, but students continue to learn even under these conditions. And we've got to make that a priority and to make sure that we offset any learning gaps that may have resulted when we first moved into distance learning.
The governor said that companies such as Apple and Office Depot and Staples as well have set aside thousands of devices to help connect students. An additional $5.3 billion has also been made available to help schools implement those new guidelines. The governor said the school districts that have already applied for financial aid would receive funding.